Watch and burn.
Hey everyone, so tonight I wanted to discuss, hopefully quickly, every time I seem to say quickly, the video tends to drone on and on for upwards of 6 to 8 minutes, but I'm still going to say it because one of these times I'm going to get it right, and like I said, I quickly would like to discuss Moby's best known and possibly most overplayed album, no pun intended, because that record in question is 1999's Play. This would be the record that would establish Moby as like the superstar that he has since managed to maintain from, the 99 forward. This is like the modern Moby sound, and it jumps off here with using like the old song samples mixed in with a heavy string presence and a really good compositional sense of songwriting and arrangement that Richard Hall is really well known for. I mean, his work that has been used in films, it's evident that this man does have a massive amount of talent, and this is the record that sort of solidifies that talent and allows him to move forward, and it provided him with such a successful platform to jump from that it seems like everything he did from this point forward was just going to be a carved in stone success, which at least for the lion's share of it is true, and it was a massive success. Everything he did from this point forward would be successful, and it would serve to only catapult him to a new level of super fame. And with tracks like Ever Loving and Porcelain and Body Rock, Jesus. If I'm not mistaken too, he licensed, I think, every single track on here for commercial use. And Body Rock, how many deodorant commercials was that used in back in the early 2000s, And with tracks like Machete and Natural Blues is on here. The video is amazing with Christina Ricci, and I love that song, and I love how emotional I think that's what I love most about like the modern Moby sound, that I could argue he had started back on Animal Rights technically, but I love how much emotion he packs into sometimes just purely instrumental tracks, and how he's able to evoke like so much power. And the emotion seems so fluid and so honest and so easy for him to sort of rein in and sort of mold into these really fun yet very meaningful electronic tracks without sort of like losing the plot and having them go on too long with a really long intro and a really long outro, which is sometimes sort of the trappings or the negative trappings of mainstream electronic music. Is the intros and outros, they run far too long, and I get it from more of like being on the dance floor setting, but when you're listening to it at home, it's just frustrating. And there's none of that here. This record is this record is like more like a collection of short stories. That's the way I've always sort of looked at it, because there's so many different sounds and so many different styles of music employed here to create this like Tyrannosaurus Rex of a record that rightfully so would put Moby where he should have been, I'd say, from Everything Is Wrong way back in the 90s, and definitely his work with like with his ambient album, and how in a lot of ways Moby helped sort of set up the like more mainstream ambient electronic sound. He wasn't getting the respect he deserved from pretty much the jump, and thankfully it didn't take him really all that long to find it. I mean, I know it probably felt like an eternity for him back then because none of his albums were selling particularly well, and his record deal was always kind of being called into question, and then he dropped Play, and that all changed. And there's not a bad song on here. I will argue some of them I can't listen to anymore, like Porcelain. If I hear Porcelain again, I may feel compelled to toss myself in front of a car. I used to love that song. That was the reason that I bought the record, because that song was just so perfect sounding back in the late 90s through the early 2000s. But as of, what is this now, May 2022, I can't hear that song anymore. It's right up there with Everything by System of a Down. I just can't listen to it anymore because I've listened to it far too many times over the past 2 decades, and that song is completely dead to me now. The interesting thing here, too, is that the track Ever Loving reminds me of a track from Wim Mertens, and it's off of Z vs. Z, and the song in question is Z's Rival. Now, Z vs. Z came out years after Play, and it's interesting because at times Z's Rival and Ever Loving, they share a lot of the same like musical sensibilities, and even in a sense, some of the same harmony and melody. And I know there's no way that Mertens had ripped Moby off, and I doubt that Mertens had even heard the record, but at the same time, the comparison is there. And they're both such incredibly talented songwriters and composers that I seriously doubt that Mertens was ripping Moby off any more than Moby was ever ripping anybody else off. But nonetheless, that comparison can be made between Z's Rival and Ever Loving, and it just makes me love each of those songs more because they remind me of each other. And I loved how this record sort of found its way into every facet of like Western culture for a while there. I remember this record was used pretty heavily in The X-Files on and off, and especially in the episode where they were chasing down that pervert who was killing all those kids working at that little like Santa's Village type theme park where there was all the mass graves out back, and how that's where he like found his sister, where Mulder, found his sister, and they had used, what the hell was the name of the track? Hang on, this is gonna bug me, so I have to figure it out. Is it My Innocence? Is that what it was? Where is it? Oh, My Weakness. Wasn't My Innocence. Jesus, that was the track that they used. It was My Weakness. And it was used perfectly because this is Moby sort of figuring out his emotional range, songwriting-wise. Even though I will say, again, there's a lot of this on Animal Rights. This sort of like heavy emotional vibe that you get was already present on an album even a few years before Play was released. So Moby sort of had his finger on the pulse of something really unique even before he was getting credit for it, and when his records weren't selling the best. Oh, I fucked up again. I said this was going to be quick, and it's almost 7 minutes. Oh, man. You know what? The next time I want something to be quick, I'm just not going to say I want it to be quick. I'm just going to discuss it quickly and then get in and get out. All right, so I'm going to leave it there. So thank you so much for hanging out with me while I discussed Moby's massive, groundbreaking album from way back, I believe in 1999, and that is Play. If you like this review, don't forget to do something nice for somebody. And I have no idea if I even looked at this camera once throughout the course of this. I set the second one up, and sometimes I use it and sometimes I don't because I get so caught up in everything that I'm saying because apparently I love the sound of my own voice. And yeah, so I'm using it now. That's something, I guess. So don't forget to do something nice for people. Have a good night. I just wanted to say thank you for making it through the entire video. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to remind everyone one more time, even though I've probably already done this in the video that you just watched, to please click the like button as well as the subscribe button because it helps this channel grow. And thank you for hitting like and subscribe. And we will see you guys really soon.